待たせをいたしました。本日はブロックチェーンの健全な発展と新しいビジネス創造のためにご視聴賜りまして誠にありがとうございます。
and for new business creation. That is the theme of our talk. So as it is time, we'd like to start the session on future of blockchain technology views from the startup companies. Let me introduce the panelists. From CTIA Limited, we have CEO Mr. Tezuka Mitsuru. He will be participating online. And next, we have Mr. Dong-In Lee, CEO of Arterix Inc. And next to him, we have Last Trust CEO, Mr. Kenta Akutsu. And this session will be moderated by Mr. Go Masuda, COO of Blockchain Hub. So we'd like to start the session right away. Could we have you moderate the session, please, Mr. Masuda? The floor is yours. Thank you very much. I'm moderator for this session from Blockchain Hub. I'm the COO, Go Masuda. I look forward to having this discussion with you. Let me introduce my company very briefly. In 2016, the company was founded using blockchain technology. Creating new business is our mission. Blockchain Academy is an education program which is the center we enlighten, and with companies we collaborate based on competition, and startup businesses are also targets of our company. Startup support of startup business. We provide support because behind this we think that the entrepreneurship is the motive force of innovation. And oftentimes, Gartner is mentioned. The hype cycle analysis is what is done. And blockchain technology, they say, is in a period of disillusionment. According to last year's report, it was mentioned. So if you look at the different indicators, the blockchain implementation, business and social implementation, that time is nearing. We're close to that period. That is what we feel. And we have three companies who will be presenting today, and each company is engaged in the creation of new business using blockchain. So we hope you will listen to the presentations to have a renewed look at the potential that blockchain offers. So we'd like to start with the presentations right away. We have the first speaker, Mr. Tezuka Mitsuru, who is from CTIA Limited. So over to you, sir. Thank you very much. My name is... you're on mute. I think you must be on mute. We're not getting audio. Can you hear me? Yes, now I can hear you. Thank you. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I'd like to talk about the potential of blockchain technology from a startup company's perspective. And I've been in this industry for 8 years, so I'd like to talk about my own unique perspectives. When you talk about potential, I'd like to talk about the bright future that, to the extent that I can imagine. I'm envisioning a bright future. I'd like to talk about several aspects. This is not a pie in the sky. It's a doable plan which I have imagined and envisioned. The blockchain is such that there are 7.5 billion yen of the people who will be affected. Various transactions will be the base, and through a blockchain, all people will have credit, and this data will remain as one which cannot be tampered with. SMS, mail exchanges, business and private lives, records of payment and games. All of these are such that those involved will be able to evaluate. credit is something that can be obtained from people that exist, and this data remains as a record. And let me go off on a tangent. In this information society, information remains. It's an indelible tattoo, and this kind of issue can be resolved. Among the things that we're working on, we're working to achieve several goals, and one of this is peer-to-peer micro-lending, P2P micro-lending. An example that I'd like to give is someone from Nigeria and Japanese. What I have mentioned before, using mails, emails, and games. There are 5 who said that was good, and then there were those who gave the thumbs down, and there were 500 of these. And these 2 people met using games, and they want to start micro-lending. Presently, if you buy things on Amazon, you can evaluate. And you can see other people's opinions and evaluation. For those purchasing, if there's a lot of evaluation for which many have given the thumbs down, I believe you wouldn't be willing to buy it. And if you use technology, you don't need to even be able to trust the person, the other party. In micro-lending, the fear that you may not be repaid is no longer something that you have to worry about. Basically, when you lend, you have this value, and the equivalent value asset can be obtained and repaid. Maybe this is a bit removed for you to really understand and trust this. But what I'm trying to say is that the exchanges of evaluation takes place, and when it comes to posting collateral, digital assets, under digital assets, I'll be talking about this. So I will skip over this subject for the moment. And then when both parties agree, micro-lending transpires. So let me talk about this in more detail. First of all, say a Nigerian person said to a Japanese, he wants a loan of 50,000 yen. And there's no need to ask about the purpose, the use of this fund. But the Nigerian has yam, potatoes, or cocoa, which he grows, and he wants clean water for this, and he wants to improve the quality, and for which he would like to request a loan of 50,000 yen. Bitcoins can be used. I think let's say that this will be through the use of Bitcoins because it's easy to understand. In the future, fiat currencies or stable coins might be a possibility, but let us say they're using Bitcoins at the moment. A Nigerian wants to borrow 50,000 yen from a Japanese. Now you have to set interest, an annual rate of 3% interest. Let's say that's the interest rate. From the standpoint of the Nigerian, it's about 1/5 of the usual interest paid, which was charged by the Japanese. For Japanese, over 1 million of interest payment can be obtained. So it'll be of merit to both parties. On the 25th of every month, 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 second, the repayment money, interest rate, and part of the principal will be repaid. And that's the agreement between the 2 parties. And as for collateral, the asset which the Nigerian has will be collateral. For example, yam, potato, annual production, 1% of that, or cocoa beans, annual production, 2.2% of that. This is an agreement. This kind of an agreement is possible, or the agreement can be more detailed. And smart contract, they write this into a smart contract. And both agree to this. And when they agree, the contract is concluded. And briefly put, every month on the 25th, 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds, the transfer occurs. Interest and part of the principal will be remitted to the Japanese. And if the transaction is delayed by 1 second, automatically interest will be paid. But the Nigeria's interest payment deadline, for example, if there is on that day there is no balance in his bank account, the transaction doesn't occur. So the collateral which has been posted will be rewritten, so it will be in the hands of the Japanese.
This world, it could be used in various payments, including rents. Things are quite vague. Some people say they will pay tomorrow, and sometimes it's accepted. But these ambiguities will not be possible under this scheme. For Nigerians, 50,000 yen is about or even more than 50% of their annual income. It's a large amount of money. This 50,000 yen that they loaned from a Japanese person will be used for their new business or will be used for payment, for investment, for information on the internet. Then this contributes to the further development of the economies of those emerging developing countries. And for Japan as well, we are experiencing further aging of the population, lower birth rates. The population is not so good at speaking English. So in order to run the economy in Japan, I believe this micro lending can be quite useful. So for this Japanese people, they have various assets. We own a variety of assets. From a global standpoint, we can say that we are quite rich. Therefore, we can loan and lend the assets that we own, and this benefits us both. This is the future that I envisage. A CTIA slogan is a fair investment for everyone. That is our slogan, to provide investment opportunities that are fair to everybody. So not just looking at these different groups of people like Nigerians and Japanese people, but people from industrialized countries and then people from developing countries can engage in this P2P micro lending. And this requires that we make assets into digital assets. We have properties, securities, and points and miles to accumulate. These can also be assets in addition to agricultural produce, industrial goods. These are also assets as well as personal skills. And everything that you own become your assets. So all of these things can be digitalized and managed under this model. In our example, the Nigerian has cacao beans and yams, and the annual production was used as collateral. So a percentage of that production output will need to be transferred to the Japanese person. This can be done automatically. And from a Japanese lender's perspective, although the repayment was not made, this Japanese person can still be entitled to a part of the production output that is equivalent to the amount of the loan. So the Japanese person is not losing out. And as long as the Nigerian continues his or her yam production or cacao bean production, they will be able to obtain income in a continuous way. People in developing countries have led a completely different lifestyles from that of us in industrialized world. But by connecting to peoples all over the world, we believe we can contribute to the further improvement of the economy as a whole. And I'm already close to the end of my presentation. It is necessary to digitalize assets, as I said before. And of course, the other requirement is to make sure that these assets are protected. Smartphones can be used for managing your assets. So this protection is an absolute requirement in the future. You can manage your various digital assets on your smartphone. You go to a cafe, you go to convenience stores and other restaurants, and you are always carrying all of your assets in a smartphone. This is a crisis, if you say. So you need to make sure that your assets are protected. We have biometrics, fingerprints used to unlock your smartphones. Going forward, the other methods that are more robust. are necessary in order to protect the assets, and this is enabled through blockchain technologies. For example, the perspiration, the heart rate, and eye movements or muscle rigidity can be used. If you are under duress with a gun pointing at you, there are abnormal things happening in your body. So in those situations, you cannot access assets. So that's one way. So this prevents robbery, theft, and other crimes. So this is one of the goals that we are aiming to achieve. So these are initiatives that we are working on, specifically targeting agricultural produce, supply chain, ESG, SDGs, and others. So we are quite active in tackling all these different areas, working with companies. As you can see here, we use the blockchain technology, the distributed ledger technologies to transform the conventional ways. And we are not only working in Japan. I'm now participating in this session from Singapore. We are also based in UK, Switzerland, to engage in international initiatives. So today, we are talking about the future of blockchain technology. And going forward, of course, we will be implementing various actions, and I look forward to engaging in conversations and discussions with you. Thank you very much for your attention.
手塚様ありがとうございました。
Thank you, Mr.
続きまして
Tezuka.
ラストラスト
Next
株式会社の阿久津様からプレゼンテーションいただきます。
Is Mr. Akutsu from Last Trust. Mr. Akutsu,
ラ
please.
スト CEO の阿久津と申します。よろしくお願いいたします。
Hello, I am Akutsu, CEO of Last Trust. I'm very happy to be here today. So today, I would like to talk about the digital transformation of certification realized by blockchain certificates. So let me talk about our company, Last Trust. We use the blockchain technology to issue digital badges that visualize qualifications, academic degrees, and achievements, as well as a person's character. And this area is specifically called the digital credentials. We are a startup company in Japan, and we are the only company that specializes in issuing such digital credentials. Our main product is SaaS, a cloud SaaS that can issue digital certifications or blockchain certification. We provide this to a variety of industries. As for the chain, we adopt Ethereum. Cloud SaaS, we use Bitcoin. Bitcoin is supported if it's a public chain. Before we talk about cloud certs, I would like to talk about some of the issues that we face with paper certificates. So today we have paper certificates, and because it is paper, it's costly to issue them. And once these certificates are issued, there is also a risk of losing the certificates. Anyone, I believe, here has experience having lost some important documents. Every time you lose a document or certificate, you need to request a reissue of the certificate, and this can build up costs for reissue. And also, with regards to paper certificates, it's easy to falsify and alter since it is a paper. And what about JPEG or PDF? These are images. What about those certificates? It is true that they are not paper, so the cost of issuing is lower, and also the risk of losing them is also diminished. However, JPEGs and PDFs, using the current software, it's easy to manipulate and alter such data. Therefore, image data should not be used as the originals for these certificates. I believe the scenes in which such data formats can be used are quite limited. However, with the emergence of the blockchain technology, we can leverage its ability to resist alteration and falsification. We can also address these issues. The originality of the paper certificate in the primary source can also be verified using the e-certificate technology to make sure that the certificate has been issued by the company or an organization in question. So these certificates are hashed on blockchain, and the originals are recorded, and these are tampered proof. No one can alter those files. And in case of JPEG or PDFs, they are dependent on servers. However, in our case, because the certificates exist on the blockchain, 365 days a year, 24/7, anyone can verify the certificates from anywhere. And the digital credentials is our specialty. We specialize in that. So not only issuing those certificates, but we also provide a feature that allows you to manage the certificates that have been issued. These features are built off-chain. You can work off-chain to check the status of the certificates on-chain, and you can switch the status off-chain.
And actually, we'd like to have you actually touch the blockchain certificate. I've shown a QR code. Please take your smartphones and read this QR code. For those of you that are participating online, if you could put your screen from over the screen, a sample certificate will be shown. If you open this, this is a sample certificate. A certificate of completion of a training or education session is shown here. The screen that I'm sharing with you, if you open it on the PC on a URL, in the case of smartphones, you will see a Verify Again button, which is on the top part of the screen. And this is the original of the certificate, which is recorded on Ethereum. And through the QR, I've shared this certificate. As to whether this is correct or not, I'd like to do a demonstration to show you. At the top of the screen, if you could click where it says Verify Again, automatically the certification verification starts. And it says, in the end, you'll find that it says it has been certified. And what we're doing here is that when you tap Verify Again, immediately the certification which I sent to you in the smartphone will be hashed, and what's already on the Ethereum, the original, the automatic comparison will be made between the hash and the original hash. And as to whether the data was accurate or not had to be confirmed through analog approaches. Seals or watermarks or special inks were used to ensure authenticity. But if you use the blockchain anti-falsification function, you can replace this immediately and safely. And so the present paper certification, you have to spend money to send it, and you have to spend the cost to maintain it. But by changing to blockchain at a low cost, certification can be digitalized in a safe manner. The present paper certificate, the cost, it involves issuance and mailing, and personnel costs for maintenance, and about for one piece of certificates, it's about 900 yen. If you use the blockchain certificate, the cost can be reduced to 60%, and that's the calculation. And another distinctive feature is that what I've shown you now, the certification issuance process which I showed can be done online. All of it can be done online at universities because of the COVID-19 influence. They cannot open their windows, and so you cannot give them paper documents. But with the blockchain services, you can basically reduce the face-to-face or in-person risk. So in the face of situations such as COVID-19, this is a solution which can respond to the needs. And as to whether it's actually used, we have an actual track record of introduction from entities that are shown here. We have had inquiries, and this time, because time is limited, I'd like to talk about two examples. One is an education institution. Keiichi Omai operates a Omai management school, and to 55 graduates of the school, we have digitalized the certificates of those who graduated, and these people are actually using it in the real world. For example, when they want to be employed, their achievements and education can be sent through URL attachments, and the user can inquire through the blockchain, and verification can be done at a very low cost. And this is from the press release. A quote from the press release. And Business Breakthrough introduced this, and they talk about the reasons why those who have finished the course and their achievements and their ability can be easily shared with prospective companies that will hire them. And that is correct, authenticated through zero cost. And the career path optimization can be done. And that was the reason that they gave. And the second example is this was a case concerning which we issued a press release last week. We have decided to cooperate with Oryx Bank using cloud certs. Financial institution issued certification. These are managed in paper form. Through digitalization, we have reached a basic agreement. For example, deposit account balance or loan balance is managed in paper format. By using blockchain and cloud certs, these can be digitalized safely, and that's the value. And from the customer standpoint, the authenticity of certificates can be easily verified. There is that need, and so the blockchain certificates, through blockchain certificates, we'd like to cater to these needs, which surely exist. The examples which I showed, that was education institution and financial institution, but in various sectors, paper certification risk and cost is incurred. So through blockchain to digitalize analog certificates is the mission that we have adopted and espoused. The blockchain certification sample, the issuance cost is zero. We provide this to you free of charge. So at this event, if you became interested, then we would be appreciative if you could inquire. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you very much, Mr. Akutsu. Next, from Arterix, we have Mr. Lee, who will be presenting. So over to you. Thank you very much. My name is Lee from Arterix. At our company, medical-related, healthcare-related blockchain and how to leverage that is what we are focusing on in terms of our business. As to how to leverage blockchain, at our company, we're focusing on basically medical data in the future in Japan or in the world. How do we effectively use that for new drug development or vaccine development? This is what we're aiming for, and we're focusing on the use of this data in different ways. In the world and in Japan, data is very hard to use, however. Secondary or tertiary use of data is such that there are different hurdles. So bearing this in mind, I'd like to talk about how blockchains can be used. First of all, very briefly, I'd like to introduce myself. I've been dealing with electronic medical records at IBM, and the findings and how that could be used for pharmaceutical companies, or I've explained to them as how to read some indices. And I found that the data was lacking to start out with, and there is no mechanism for distributing data. That was the feeling I had. So that's why I started this company, Arterix. As for blockchain, from 2016, we have been researching this. I launched a company in Switzerland. It's an Ethereum-based R&D, which I have been engaged in. And so I've been talking about data. Why is it data that we're talking about? I don't feel many will object. Since the 1990s, we've connected to the internet. If you connect to the internet, you can communicate with people worldwide. And after that, in 2010, Facebook and Google, this became the very foundation and the basic element in people's lives. And communities were formed, and data was accumulated. And that is the kind of world we're experiencing. 80% of the data have been created in the past 2 or 3 years in doing business going forward, and not restricted to business in conducting a living going forward. How do you leverage this data? That will be a challenge for the future, according to my thinking. And so it will be the age of data, without a doubt, which is coming. And going back to medical data, and this is Japan, customers or patients, when they go to hospitals, they are tested, and the conditions and their past history is kept in the hospital's medical record. And if you want to make a secondary use of this, recently was enacted the medical basic law, which if you anonymize the data of hospitals or businesses, anonymize it, and this can be used for secondary and tertiary purposes. And pharmaceutical companies buy this data from data processing companies, and the payment is made, and that is the mechanism. And there are 3 major issues related to this. When we go to hospitals, the data is provided to us. Nice doctors are provided to us in paper form, but they don't give you detailed data. If you ask, there are some doctors who give it to you, but you have to ask. So you don't have your own data, and that doesn't seem right. And the second point is that to your own data, you haven't given permission that your data can be used for secondary purpose. It's been used for secondary purpose. It's anonymized, and it's processed, and it's used, but you haven't given them permission to use it.
And lastly, to begin with, let's say the data is used for pharmaceutical purposes, or under the current COVID-19 situation, the data is used for developing a vaccine. Let's say we can concede to that idea that our data is used for that purpose, but then you may be entitled to some rewards, some returns. But the fact is, the reality is that patients are unaware that their data is being used. And this is our ideal vision, and the society that we aim to realize in the future is this. So far, you go to a variety of institutions, you go to general hospitals, you go to nearby clinics and other healthcare places, and your data exists in a fragmented manner. So the data that has been accumulated can be stored on your smartphone. So when you go to a new hospital, when you have a disease and you go to a new location, you can share that information with the new hospital about your prior history of diseases and the drugs that you have taken in the past. And not only the information on drugs, but the results of allergy testing or results of blood tests are also stored. So by sharing that information, I believe this can contribute to improving the quality of healthcare. So making such information visible also to the patients, I believe, is necessary. Of course, everyone goes to different hospitals and clinics. No audio, no connection. For instance, for drug discovery, information may be shared with pharma companies, and if it helps lower your insurance fees, then you may want to submit your information to the insurance companies. So this distribution model is centered on patients. They decide. And perhaps some of you may have already noticed, but the most important thing is basically consent from the patient, whether the patient really wants to make his or her data available. Maybe for some purposes they say yes, for some other purposes they say no. So how to manage that consent becomes very important. And our company uses blockchain technology to manage that, the consent information, the permission given by the patient. That information is stored on the blockchain to ensure that the patient has indeed given consent. If we were to do this in the conventional systems, then we can just flag on the database, but systems administrators can access that, and it becomes possible to block or gloat that data in the background. But if it is the blockchain, basically data cannot be tampered with. So this is one way that we see how blockchain can help. And more on the system side, basically, current medical information, if anyone wants to use that, if it's a large hospital, such e-medical records information is built on on-premise systems. So if data needs to be extracted from that, we need to send that to an intermediary environment to store the data, or to make sure only to have information or data of patients who have given consent. So we need to copy the database for the purpose of sharing. We attach a blockchain in this intermediary environment. So a patient who's given consent for their data to be used for secondary purposes, only their data is extracted. So it is not stored on the blockchain, but basically the IDs of patients who have given consent is stored. So we can only extract and pull data of those patients. And from that database, it's connected to the user's smartphones to verify and authenticate that the user is indeed the patient. If it is authenticated, then they can access their information. Or anyone who has been given access permission, for example, the pharma company or any other entities that the patient has given consent to and given access rights to, they can also access this patient's information. As for the blockchain platform, I'm not really particular about the platform. It can be Ethereum. Quorum is something we are looking at more recently. This is popular among businesses, Hyperasia. Anything can be used as platform. So lastly, I want to introduce a little bit about the initiative. So the data that can be obtained from this model is not limited to electronic medical records, but also the kind of healthcare data that we see and other data, for example, data on drugs and the health checkup data that you receive from your employer. These prove to be valuable information for research purposes. So a patient's information on medical records of a cancer patient, it is already after the fact that the patient has already cancer, so we can only get statistics. We cannot personalize medicine for this patient, but this is the company's product. So the left-hand side, we have a data linkage with the hospitals. This is Sasaeru Noto. We have already introduced this solution to a hospital. So together with the e-medical records data, we ask the patients to record their health status on a daily basis. So this is more subjective information. So by combining that data with the medical records, the doctors can also see that the patient is in a good condition despite what the data presents. And the other element is this health checkups. In case of Japan, many company workers basically get their health checkups through their employers. And in the past several years, we have seen a certain trend that people no longer work for the same company for 20 or 30 years. They change companies, they switch careers. So the company that you worked for over the past decades or 2 decades, do you carry your health checkup data with you when you change to a different company? I think not. So by storing that data, you can go to a hospital and present your past health checkup data. I believe this contributes to a better quality medicine or healthcare. And the middle one, this is the Pashatto Karute. Users can take photos of everything to record the results of the tests, and you can give consent for the data to be used secondary. So that is what we are currently working on. So by using such solutions, we may be able to better utilize and leverage healthcare data. I apologize for taking up so long a time, but that's all for examples of how blockchain is leveraged. Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. The 3 companies presented their products and solutions. They all speak of the future of blockchain technology. When we say blockchain, the technology, it is disruptive, it is also said innovation. But finally, I think we are starting to see use cases that are more relevant and close to our lives. And of the startup companies that are here today, some of the products are already used by users, and some products will be launched shortly, and you'll be able to try them out. I hope through today's presentations, the audience was able to appreciate the potential of the blockchain technology. Thank you for the panelists, and thank you to the audience for participating in this session. Mr. Tezuka, Mr. Lee, Mr. Akutsu, and also Mr. Masuda, who moderated the session, thank you very much.
With
that, I would like to conclude this session titled Future of Blockchain Technology Views from Startup Companies. The next sessions are as follows. From 1:15 in Hall A, we will have a panel discussion on business and society made possible by self-sovereign digital ID. In Hall B, we have a session titled Blockchain and Data Protection. Those of you participating online, please select the URL for the session that you would like to participate. Thank you very much.